Q Review, print speaking to the blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the National Podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @CuneReview, that is @CuandReview. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@cunereview.com. That is INFORMATION@CuandReview.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
This is from the National on Friday the 3rd of May 2024, from the news section. Crowds vow to stay as police gather at Scottish Immigration Centre. This article is written by Kirsty Fearick. A crowd gathered outside a Glasgow immigration reporting centre prompted a police response. Officers are now stationed at the centre in Governs Brand Street, following reports on social media which claim a person is being detained inside the building. There has been no confirmation from any official sources on whether this is true. Migrants are to start being detained by the Home Office after the Rwanda Act was passed last week. Susie Boyd, 68, who volunteers 3 days a week with asylum seekers and refugees teaching them in English, said, "They are already distressed and depressed because of the situation they are in. They are pulled away from their families, they have a dreadful, frightening journey, and then they come to this. They are absolutely petrified and don't know what to do and who to turn to. It seems that the people who should be protecting us are not willing to do that. It's shocking. I want to be another nationality. I don't want to be British. I am ashamed to be saying I am British. It is horrible what they are doing. They don't care about the suffering they are causing." One person at the scene told the Glasgow Times, "We don't have all the information. We only know what we know. We are trying to learn from Kenmure Street here and stop our friends and neighbours from being deported. We are concerned about local people. If you want to come and try and save our local Glaswegian just like ourselves, come down. We will stay as long as it takes." In 2021, crowds gathered in the Pollokshields Kenmure Street after 2 Sikh men were detained by the Home Office for alleged immigration violations. Green councillor Anthony Carroll said, "Today I am here as we have had another call in terms of the hostile environment the Home Office has been part of. Today, while it is not the Rwanda policy, which in itself has torn many constituents across the city, this feeling exists of a very tense atmosphere. Today, someone is being forcibly removed from their home. This tears communities apart. This is the aim of the Home Office. They are in a very adverse way seek to stop people from seeking asylum. We are all here to make that stand today and to show that communities stand with their neighbours." That article was written by Kirsty Fearick. This is from the National on Friday the 3rd of May 2024, from the Culture section. Glasgow showbiz legend dies at 80 years old. This article is written by Morgan Carmichael. A Glasgow showbiz legend has died, it has been reported. Christian, real name Chris McClure, apparently passed away in his sleep on the morning of April 29th at 80 years old. An announcement was made on Christian's official website, which said, "It is with deep sadness that we announce that Christian, Chris McClure, passed away peacefully in his sleep on the morning of April 29th. Our thoughts are with his family, who have asked for privacy and to be left in peace at this very sad time." The Scottish Sun have also reported that Christian's agent Ian Jones confirmed the news, saying, "This has come as a huge shock, as he was performing on Saturday night. But that sums up Chris perfectly, as he was a performer to the end. His family have now respectfully asked to be left in peace. The twice-married dad of 5 had an incredible career spanning over 60 years, which included touring the UK with Billy Connolly in the 1970s, and was a regular performer in a number of pantomimes at the Pavilion Theatre in the city centre. In 2018 he was still performing in the Glasgow Pavilion's annual panto, alongside River City star Stephen Purdon and TV wrestler Grado. Christian also appeared on the same bill as the Jacksons and Dolly Parton at the Queen's Jubilee show at Glasgow King's Theatre in 1978. That article was written by Morgan Carmichael. This is from The National on Friday the 3rd of May 2024, from the comments section. Humza Yousaf's tenure will be remembered kindly. This article is written by Kelly Given. No stranger to providing us with some peak entertainment, Scottish politics has really popped off this week. A week ago we had a successful, stable and world-recognised statesman sitting comfortably in Bute House with improving polls to boot. That same First Minister has now quit. The country's political future is hanging in the balance, and it seems all parties have, frankly, lost their minds. Do I think Humza Yousaf made a good decision regarding the Bute House agreement? No, I don't. If I'm honest, it baffled me, and it continues to do so. That being said, the instability posed by the Greens' impending membership vote on the agreement was clearly the catalyst for it all. The First Minister was in a sticky position, and risked looking politically weak if he hadn't taken control of the narrative himself. It is a real shame to be losing a politician of his calibre in this way. He's not had it easy since he took office, but, in my opinion, he rode the waves like a pro. Yousaf was dealt a hell of a deck, but powered through calmly, assuredly, and with a deeply felt passion for his country. In the way that a real leader should. His leadership on Palestine will forever be what defines him, and who he is. Despite it being personally and politically difficult for him, he has been unwavering in his support for the Palestinian people, and has recognised internationally for it. History will remember him kindly, and we should not get lost in the immediate noise that will inevitably fade out. His resignation speech on Monday was representative of the man we have seen over the last 13 months, thoroughly kind, thoughtful, and dedicated beyond measure to the country that he leads. He is, by all accounts, a decent and honest man, the kind that feels increasingly rare in politics, and we should be sad to see him go. It is time, though, and I say this as a party member myself, that we have an honest conversation as a movement. The fact is that Nicola Sturgeon is gone, and she's not replaceable. The stonking back-to-back election wins and unshakable public support once enjoyed by the party have inevitably taken a shift since her departure. Yousaf was always going to have a difficult job, and we should not be judging him too harshly in any reality. We can keep trying to revive her political ghost by ushering in another member of her inner circle, or we can go back to the drawing board and provide a genuinely freshly updated perspective. The party has been in chaos since her resignation, between police investigations and a never-endingly challenging political landscape. It's time to stop pretending like everything is fine, that we have a complete handle on the situation, that we are going to recover. The fact is, the only way we are going to recover is if we look outwards at the rest of the country and what it is crying out for. And that's change. We are in seriously tough times, and we need radical, unapologetically progressive policy to help us out of them. And that includes independence. The last week has been utterly depressing to watch, especially as an avid defender of politics generally. We have seen nothing of any substance offered to the people of Scotland. Instead, the country has watched on as political infighting infiltrated every party and even made its way to our Parliament's chamber. A thoroughly embarrassing spectacle that has shone a light on the worst of politics and confirmed in the minds of the sceptics that we try so hard to convince that politics is indeed a waste of time. There is no apparent desire to work cohesively across the Scottish parliamentary chamber, even if for the better of the country, and almost every piece of legislation that passes through it is dissected for political gain. This week has proven that as the make-up of Parliament stands, the interests of the people they represent are rarely actually front and centre. When it comes down to it, politicking will always have the upper hand. Our political system is in a horrendously polarised state, and the only way to break the deadlock is to inject some life into it. Offer something new and exciting, something that isn't afraid to challenge the status quo or make waves for the right reasons. Whether we want to admit it or not, the SNP have been ineffective in finding a cohesive direction of late, and the only way we continue to win and increase support for independence is to commit wholeheartedly to being the fiercely progressive party that we once were. We don't do that by re-electing leaders gone by, or even electing leaders that won't uphold our own manifesto. We do it by stepping outside of the bubble. It's been a terrible week, optics-wise, for the Greens too, given that it was them who destabilised the agreement in the first place, before having a thoroughly public tantrum about its demise, and even momentarily lining up behind the Tories to oust the First Minister. While I respect the grassroots activism that challenged the agreement from within the Greens, and thought it was a fantastic example of how the grassroots can seriously change things, you can't propose the end of an agreement and then behave like spoiled children when the exact outcome you flirted with yourself comes to fruition. I debated a Green Party activist on BBC News who was indignant that the Greens would now not have a say because Yousaf decided so. The fact is that the Greens did not win the election, and while I was very much a supporter of the two parties working in unison and thought the Greens held the SNP to account well on issues like rent control, they simply can't expect to dictate as though they are the party of government when they do not have the public's full endorsement. I won't even bother touching on Labour or the Tories, because, frankly, this kind of desperate politics is all they have to offer, and it isn't worth the energy it would take to dissect. But for the independence movement, this has been a shaky few days, and has shone a harsh light on our immediate need to regroup, re-energise, and refocus on what the country is actually looking for. We are not going to find the answers by continually yapping amongst or at ourselves and running round in circles. That article was written by Kelly Given. This is from The National on Friday the 3rd of May 2024, from the news section. John Sweeney set to become Scotland's 7th First Minister. This article is written by Zander Eliards. John Sweeney is set to be the 7th First Minister of Scotland. The MSP and former Deputy First Minister is expected to be crowned leader of the SNP on Monday, once nominations in the race to replace Humza Yousaf close. By Thursday, Kate Forbes was the only serious candidate, other than Sweeney, left standing, but she pulled out of the running in a statement issued after First Minister's questions. Earlier in the day, Sweeney had said that Forbes would have a senior role in a government he leads. Forbes has been Finance Secretary under Nicola Sturgeon, but was offered the Rural Affairs brief under Yousaf. Forbes rejected the offer, which was widely seen as a demotion, and chose to sit as a backbencher. Sweeney was also sitting as a backbencher when Yousaf announced his resignation. He stepped back from the frontline politics when Sturgeon, whom he served as Deputy First Minister for nearly 9 years, resigned. However, after Yousaf quit, Swinney was quickly being spoken about as a potential replacement, and on Thursday he told reporters, "I could have stood back and hoped others would sort things out, but I cared too much about the future of Scotland and the Scottish National Party to walk on by." The former Deputy First Minister had the support of the Cabinet Secretaries, including Angus Robertson, Mari McAllen, Shirley Ann Somerville and Fiona Hislop, as well as SNP Westminster leader Stephen Flynn. On Forbes, Swinney said, "We have many talented people leading the work of the Scottish Government. I want Kate Forbes to play a significant part in that team. She is an intelligent, creative, thoughtful person who has much to contribute to our national life. And if elected, I will make sure that Kate is able to make that contribution." Once he is officially SNP leader, a role he previously held from 2000 to 2004, Swinney will need to be confirmed as First Minister. MSPs will vote to confirm him in the role by a simple majority, meaning abstentions will not be counted. The SNP have 63 MSPs in Holyrood, one fewer than the 65 of all 5 opposition parties combined. In the past, opposition parties have also nominated their leader to become the First Minister. In order to be confirmed in the role, Swinney will need to secure more votes than the other candidates combined. If he gets a necessary number of votes, the SNP MSP will be appointed by royal warrant before being sworn in at the Court of the Session. The necessary processes are expected to take place next week, meaning Swinney will officially become Scotland's 7th First Minister. Since devolution in 1998, Scotland has had 3 Labour First Ministers, Donald Dewar, Henry McLeish and Jack McConnell, and 3 SNP First Ministers, Alex Salmond, Nicola Sturgeon and Humza Yousaf. Swinney's coronation is likely to upset some within the independence movement, who had called for the leadership race to be a true contest, not a coronation. Writing in The National, Leslie Riddoch said, "I suppose it boils down to this. Does the SNP need peace or disruption? By which I mean spirited debate about policy and internal party procedure, not pointless personal vitriol. I think it's the latter, though I can well understand SNP leadership nerves." That article was written by Zander Eliards. This is from The National on Friday the 3rd of May 2024. From the news section. Police Scotland fear missing golden eagle has been shot and killed. This article is written by Ross Hunter. Police have said they believe a protected golden eagle, which disappeared last year, was shot. Merrick, a female golden eagle, was translocated to the south of Scotland in 2022, but was reported missing on October the 12th. She was thriving before disappearing, having been spotted widely across southern Scotland and the north of England. Merrick was fitted with a satellite tag that tracked her well-being and movements. In the 8 days leading up to her disappearance, she was exploring the Moorfoot Hills near Lothian. On October the 12th, her tag stopped transmitting, indicating it was not a malfunction and suggesting human interference. An Eagle officer later inspected Merrick's last known roosting spot, and blood and feathers were found nearby. With so few natural predators, police say they believe she was shot. Kat Barlow, project manager for the South of Scotland Golden Eagle Project, SSGEP, which translocated Merrick, said, "We can confirm that Police Scotland has found clear evidence that a wildlife crime has been committed. They are confident Merrick's disappearance was due to persecution." The SSGEP is incredibly angry, upset and disappointed that her disappearance appears to have been at the hands of an individual or individuals who consider themselves above the law. The project's translocated eagles have captured the hearts and minds of all our supporters, from conservationists and raptor workers to landowners and the wider community, including children, visitors and business operators, who all share our utter shock and disappointment. However, this incident and the staunch support we have had makes us utterly determined to fight the persecution of golden eagles and continue our successful translocation work to reinstate a resilient population of golden eagles across southern Scotland. Looking at the evidence, Police Scotland believe she was shot, then fell to the ground, where she bled considerably through a single wound. Police Scotland believe that someone then removed her body and destroyed her satellite tag. Project Chairman Michael Clark said, "Whoever committed this deplorable wildlife crime should hang their heads in shame. Golden eagles are back to stay in the south of Scotland, and we very much hope they continue to spread from here to all parts of the UK. We remain more determined than ever to establish a sustainable population of golden eagles in the south of Scotland." John Wright, the eagle officer who inspected Merrick's last known location, said, "I saw a film of blood stretched across the grass stems. It subsequently turned out that a considerable amount of blood was present in and below the moss layer. As I stood back from the feather and blood location, I could see small downy feathers scattered in the dense spruce foliage below the roosting branches. Merrick had been roosting, sleeping perched, in a tree when her tag stopped transmitting. Golden eagles, as apex predator, have very few natural predators, and so fears that Merrick has been fatally injured whilst roosting were quickly dismissed. Police Scotland have told us that they are confident humans were involved in the demise of this eagle. Detective Sergeant David Lynn, a Police Scotland wildlife crime coordinator, said, "The bird was last seen in the area to the west of Fountain Hall, between Heriot and Stowe, on Thursday, October the 12th. A full search of this area was carried out, and officers believe that the bird has come to harm and are treating its disappearance as suspicious." A spokesman for the Scottish Gamekeepers Association said, "We share SSGEP's anger at this awful news. The SGA and its membership have been active partners in the success of this project to date, supplying donor eaglets and helping with provision of food for the young birds. We will continue to do so, to help bring about the recovery of the species in the south of Scotland. Anyone with information is asked to contact Police Scotland on 101. That article was written by Ross Hunter. This is from The National, on Friday the 3rd of May 2024, from the news section. Tesco club card warning to millions of shoppers over deadline. This article is written by Joshua Searle. Tesco shoppers have been issued a 1-month warning before they miss out on a share of £17 million worth of club card vouchers. The supermarket giant is alerting club card customers that almost £17 million worth of vouchers are due to expire at the end of May. The expiring club card vouchers can be used towards the cost of the weekly shop, to pay for fuel, or to pick up a new deal with Tesco Mobile. You can also double the value of your club card vouchers by exchanging them for vouchers at one of Tesco's club card reward partners, including Pizza Express, Alton Towers Resort and Hotels.com. Tesco has also revealed that more than £27 million of club card reward partner vouchers are due to expire over the next 6 weeks. Tesco has emailed customers with reminders and is also encouraging customers to use the Tesco grocery and club card app to check to see if any of their vouchers or reward codes are set to expire. Ashwin Prasad, Tesco Chief Commercial Officer said, "People across the UK will be looking forward to 2 bank holiday weekends in May and thinking about how they can make the most of them." Tesco Club Card holders can use the power of Club Card to unlock all sorts of bank holiday fun, from saving on their shopping when they pick up their barbecue food, or to exchanging for twice the value with 100+ reward partners, offering everything from fun days out for the family to meals at some of the UK's most popular restaurant chains. With millions of vouchers expiring at the end of this month, we are urging everyone to make the most of their Club Card this May and check to see if any vouchers or reward codes are expiring. Millions of Tesco shoppers will have the chance to collect £50 in Club Card points as the supermarket giant introduces the new AI-powered Club Card challenges. 3 million Club Card customers will be invited to take part in the new Tesco campaign. Those who accept will be given 20 challenges personalised for them to complete. The challenges will vary for each participant and can range from spend £20 on our summer barbecue range over the next 6 weeks to spend £10 on plant-based meals. If a customer completes the challenge, they will be rewarded with extra Club Card points. Of the 20 offers available, customers can choose which 10 of them they most want to complete and get a maximum reward of £50 in Club Card points. Lizzie Reynolds, Group Membership and Loyalty Director at Tesco, said, "We are constantly looking for ways to make Club Card work harder for our customers. With Club Card prices on around 8,000 products, it is saving customers up to £360 off the annual cost of their groceries. Personalisation is about using what we know about customers to make their experiences better and our rewards more helpful, and we're very excited to see how our customers respond to Club Card challenges." That article was written by Joshua Searle.
From the National, Friday the 5th of April, from the Culture section. Historic Site of Land Art Regeneration recognised by HES. Report by Gregor Young. Historic Environment Scotland, HES, yesterday added Croic Multiverse to its inventory of gardens and design landscapes. The site was nominated to be considered for designation by a member of the public as part of HES's Designed Landscapes of the Recent Past project, an initiative to identify and champion Scotland's modern gardens and design landscapes. Located near Sanquhar in Dumfries and Galloway, Croic Multiverse is of outstanding artistic and historical interest as an example of early 21st century land art. It was designed and constructed on the site of a former open-cast coal mine by renowned landscape architect Charles Jenks between 2011 and 2017. It is now run by the Croic Multiverse Trust, who operate the site as a visitor attraction, unique destination and outdoor venue. Charles Jenks, 1939 to 2019, was an internationally renowned land artist, cultural theorist and architectural historian. Croic Multiverse was his final land art project and his largest completed work in the UK, though his work can be found across the globe from India to South Korea. Jenks designed Croic Multiverse to explore cosmology, prehistory, and connections to the past of the theory of the multiverse. Features in the landscape convey a sense of the universe and its rhythms, from the Standing Stone Avenue through the north-south line, which evokes prehistoric stone monuments like the Neolithic Callanaes, or Callanish, standing stones in the Isle of Lewis, to the Omphalos, which signifies both the geological and mythical interior of the earth. Croic Multiverse covers an area of 22.5 hectares of land, over 36 football pitches, and is significant for its ambitious scale, visual and conceptual design integrity. Designed as a land regeneration project for public access, the Croic Multiverse enriches the local community and connects its visitors to both the industrial history of the area and the prehistory of the British Isles. Philip Robertson, Deputy Head of Designations at HES, said, Croatic Multiverse is an excellent addition to the inventory. Many of the ideas Charles Jenks explored throughout his illustrious career culminated at a massive scale here, and the site has been its artistic, cultural and historical significance. Gardens and designed landscapes of the recent past, such as Croatic Multiverse, are an important element of Scotland's historic environment and landscape. However, they are not always valued as much as older sites. It's important to record, recognise and promote awareness of these sites through our work. Patrick Lorimer, trustee at the Croatic Multiverse Trust, said, "As trustees, we are delighted that Historic Environment Scotland has recognised the importance and unique nature of Croatic Multiverse and considered it to be worthy of an inclusion in their inventory of gardens and designed landscapes as part of their recent initiative to identify and celebrate Scotland's modern gardens and designed landscapes. It is a rare and special accolade to be recognised in this way, and a fitting tribute to Charles Jenks and his significant contribution to land art in the UK and across the world. For more information about the Croatic Multiverse, please visit the HES website at www.historicenvironment.scot. That's www.historicenvironment.scot. And that culture piece was written by Gregor Young. From the National, Tuesday the 7th of May, from the politics section, Labour slammed for deeply insulting choice of candidate who lives 500 miles from seat. Article written by Hamish Morrison. Labour have picked a councillor from an English council 500 miles away to be the party's candidate in a Scottish constituency. Elizabeth Carr-Ellis has been picked to stand in the Angus and Perthshire Glens constituency at the upcoming general election, despite currently being a councillor in Canterbury, Kent, the Courier first revealed. The ancient English city is around 500 miles from the constituency she hopes to represent. Angus and Perthshire Glens will also be contested by the SNP's Dave Duggan, currently the MP for Angus, and Conservative MSP Stephen Kerr, who briefly represented Stirling in the UK Parliament. Labour finished last in the Angus seat at the most recent general election in 2019, garnering just 2,051 votes and reportedly losing their deposit. Carr-Ellis' selection has been described as deeply insulting, and the Tories have said it shows Labour are disinterested in the area. Duggan told the Courier, "It's clear as day that Labour are taking the people of Scotland for granted yet again, so much as that even their own members in Scotland can't get behind Keir Starmer's pro-Brexit, pro-austerity Labour Party. It's deeply insulting that Labour expect the people of Angus and Perthshire Glens to vote for someone who just last week expressed their excitement at representing a council ward in the south of England for the next 3 years. While voters are so desperate to get rid of this cruel Tory government, they're also deeply unimpressed with Keir Starmer's list of broken promises. People in Scotland know that only the SNP will put them first and make them Scotland's voice heard at Westminster." A Scottish Tory spokesperson said, "Only a vote for Stephen Kerr and the Scottish Conservatives will keep the SNP out in Angus and Perthshire Glens. Any pro-UK votes for other parties will only elect an SNP MP." The Courier reported that it had received no confirmation that Carr-Ellis would move to the constituency for the general election campaign, or if she would resign her council role if elected. The paper added that Carr-Ellis was a former journalist who described herself as a Geordie and had previously worked at the Scotsman and the Sunday Herald. A Scottish Labour spokesperson said, "Scottish Labour is committed to giving the people across Scotland the chance to kick the Tories out of Downing Street and take on the divided and chaotic SNP." And that article was written by Hamish Morrison.
The National, recorded on Tuesday 7th of May 2024. The Culture section. Best of Scotland. Stumbling Across Cloudberries, one of Scotland's rarest fruits, by Anne Fotheringham, senior features writer. In her latest book, food and travel writer Carolina Eden recounts a year of fascinating journeys to places as diverse as Uzbekistan, Turkey, Latvia, Poland and Ukraine, One of the most magical moments featured, however, happened much closer to home. On a misty Highlands morning, hiking in the hills above Glen Hammond, Caroline discovered a holy grail for foragers, the delicious, elusive, near mythical cloudberry. It was quite something, she admits with a smile. I really was not expecting it to happen. Cloudberries are so rare, they grow mainly in the Arctic and subarctic regions, and they'd been on my mind for years, but I had never seen one in the wild. I just knew immediately what it was, this little bit of orangey gold gleaming against the dark mossy landscape. It was very precious. In her book Cold Kitchen, published by Bloomsbury on May 9, Caroline describes the moment in exquisite detail. My heart began thumping, she writes. Without doubt it was a single cloudberry, wrapped like a gift, in a gauzy spider's web, golden red, the colour of cognac, and shaped like its cousin the raspberry, but with fatter yet fewer juice-filled drupelets. Its solitariness hinted that its life had begun as a seed dropped by a bird, a fugitive out on its own, not part of a patch. Typically found in remote and scattered locations, cloudberries elude even the best and most hyper-local of foragers. So few in number are they that they seem unreal, the fruits of mountain fairies or goblins. So sought after are cloudberries, in fact, coordinates are kept classified. Flora Celtica, Plants and People in Scotland, states that knowledge of good cloudberry patches tends to be a closely guarded secret among pickers. I like the idea that there might be secret patches of cloudberries no one lets on about. Cold Kitchen is a beautifully written book, part memoir, part travelogue, part recipe collection, with snippets of history and literary heritage, culinary insights and stories of the people Caroline meets along the way. Back home in Edinburgh, she brings it all together as she recreates autumnal strudels, winter melon salads, and summer soups of beetroot and feta. As much as it is about travel, Cold Kitchen, explains Caroline, is about slowing down and using the kitchen as a portal to other parts of the world. She explains, I love food. I'm not the best cook, but I love trying to recapture my travels when I get back home through cooking. Hopefully that's quite relatable. We all do it, try to recreate our holidays through food, maybe using different spices or oils. I'm not just taking these recipes away from the places I visit, I'm reinterpreting them, while trying to be as sensitive to places and cultures as possible. The recipes are like a postcard to the reader almost, to allow them to taste the journey along with me. Caroline is an award-winning writer and critic. Her previous books include Black Sea and most recently Red Sands, winner of the prestigious André Simon Award. Her first book, Samarkand, grew out of a desire to write an injustice, she explains. I'd done quite a bit of travelling, particularly in Central Asia, and it seemed in all the guides people were so rude about the food. I wanted to show people that was unfair. In places like Uzbekistan, for example, there was no tourism culture, no little cafes or restaurants you could pop into to sample the local cuisine. But if you ate in someone's home, the food was really good, and there was fantastic produce on offer at local markets. I wanted to explain that, show them the other side. Cold Kitchen also contemplates the importance of feeling at home in the world, says Caroline, for whom home means the Edinburgh flat she shares with husband James and inquisitive dog Darwin. Having lived in London where she worked as a bookseller, then in a drafty old farmhouse in Yorkshire, it was the basement kitchen that sealed the deal when she and James began looking at properties in the capital. It felt like a world within a world, she recalls. The wooden beams reminded me of Yorkshire, and I just loved the subterranean feel of the place. At the heart of Cold Kitchen, in addition to a selection of tantalising recipes, are Caroline's stories of some of the most special places she visited and the people she met. Food is a lovely way into writing about a country and the people you meet. You can sit in a cafe or a restaurant or in someone's home and just start chatting, and of course, it's soon never just about the food. It's about the history, the agriculture, the culture, a little bit of everything. I think you can tell any story through food. CarolineEden.com by Anne Fotheringham. The National, recorded on Tuesday, 7th of May 2024. The Culture section. Exclusive. How Scots screenwriter Drew Pearce became a Hollywood success story by Gregory Wakeman. Drew Pearce is in a good mood. The Fall Guy, his latest Hollywood blockbuster as a screenwriter, was met with strong buzz after its premiere at SXSW in March, while Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt's Oscar nominations, as well as Gosling's performance of the song I'm Just Ken from Barbie at the ceremony, have also generated a substantial amount of buzz and excitement for the new action comedy. Critics have been just as impressed with The Fall Guy, Based on the 1980s TV series about stunt performers, the film revolves around battle-scarred Colt Seavers, Gosling, trying to find the missing lead star of Jody Moreno's blunt directorial debut, only to get pulled into a dangerous plot of murder and deceit. The movie has just been certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, Pierce excitedly tells the National over the phone. So even though I thoroughly disagree with the concept of Rotten Tomatoes, I'm very happy we got certified. What's most striking about Pierce's declaration is that he pronounced tomato so differently within the space of 3 seconds. This is entirely understandable, as the Fife-born screenwriter has now been living in Los Angeles for 12 years. He's had tremendous success there too. While he's credited with writing Iron Man 3, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, and Hotel Artemis, which he also directed, he's actually worked on scripts for 60 movies in this time. Pierce said, "I think one of the upsides of being a British person writing American heroes is that I'm able to write them as underdogs. I wonder if because I'm British, I'm still prone to making my main characters self-deprecating. I feel like it makes them more appealing. It also helps if the actors playing them are as magnetic as Robert Downey Jr. and as handsome and funny as Ryan Gosling." While Pierce was born in Fife, his Scottish mother and father moved him and his sister down to the southeast of England when he was just 3. With their grandparents and family still up in Scotland, Pierce would regularly have to spend hours in the car visiting them. He said, "My entire childhood is defined by those 12-hour drives up the M1 to see my grandparents and get very buttered toast when we arrived late at night. All of my feelings towards Scotland are so nostalgic. It's wrapped up with The Fall Guy, because that's around the time the show was airing too. It brings back lots of warm, fuzzy memories." After briefly writing for The Face magazine, singing and playing guitar in a band, and doing some television work, Pierce turned his attention to screenwriting. He'd have done so earlier, but since he had absolutely no connections in the industry, he was under the illusion that he wasn't permitted to. "I honestly didn't know I was allowed to be a filmmaker," he said. "Call it a lack of imagination or ambition on my part, but my whole life I only realise I'm allowed to do something once I meet someone who's actually doing it. I thought to myself, well, if they're doing it, I probably could too." Pierce soon created and wrote No Heroics, an ITV2 sitcom about a group of unsuccessful superheroes, which was met with strong reviews and earned a Best New British TV Comedy of 2008 nomination at the British Comedy Awards. While it only lasted for 1 season and 6 episodes, ABC picked up the American rights to the show and even shot a pilot for it. Pierce said, "ABC are owned by Disney, and No Heroics was incredibly R-rated, so I knew it wasn't a good fit. It was a disaster. But when I was out in Los Angeles, I had a meeting with Marvel and President Kevin Feige. When I walked into the room, everyone had watched No Heroics. When Pierce was asked if there was a Marvel comic he'd like to adapt, he mentioned Runaways. Feige was actually holding meetings with writers about adapting Runaways that next week, but there was no room for Pierce to pitch. That was until the ash cloud from a volcanic eruption in Iceland halted air travel across Western Europe and meant one writer wasn't able to make it to Los Angeles. Pierce took their place and was hired to write Runaways. Well, that film wasn't made. A few months later, he began to collaborate with Shane Black on Iron Man 3 instead, which immediately established him as a Hollywood screenwriter. In November 2019, Pierce was approached by director David Leitch, who he'd just worked with on Hobbs and Shaw, about The Fall Guy. Pierce said, "They didn't know that The Fall Guy was my favourite show as a kid. It was what I watched on Saturday evenings. I even dreamed of becoming a stuntman and built obstacle courses in my back garden. I just knew the tone and the vibe of what I wanted to do with it, even though we had to throw most of what the TV show is about out and build an entirely new story and new set of characters." Gosling became involved in the production early on, which was a huge help to Pierce's scriptwriting process, while Blunt signed up after a few drafts. That changed the script massively again, because we knew we wanted to make it a two-hander then. Pierce said, "The script became more romantic just because there's so much chemistry between them, and we wanted to have them in a room together as much as possible." Well, the film had been praised for its action and for being a love letter to stuntmen, while also including a new Guinness World Record for the most cannon rolls performed in a car. Pierce is most fond of the fact that they've made a film he genuinely believes is for everyone. I know everyone says that, but this is a very real, small and funny love story, as well as a huge action spectacle. I really feel like this is for everyone. The action is satisfying, so is the romance and the comedy. My 10-year-old has seen it, my girlfriend's 80-year-old parents have too. Looking ahead, Pierce hasn't set himself any particular goals. Instead, he just wants to continue making movies that people of all ages can enjoy. I feel like after years of people saying movies are over and streaming is the only way forward, everyone is into movies again, he said. I'm lucky that I've had so many big movies made with big movie stars. I feel like movies and movie stars are back. That's what I want to see in the weekend. Honestly, I'm just excited to try to keep making more of those movies. By Gregory Wakeman. The National, recorded on Tuesday, 7th of May 2024. The Culture section. Exclusive. Meet the team maintaining Scotland's most iconic landmarks. By Adam Robertson, multimedia journalist. Every year, thousands of visitors flock to sites all over Scotland to discover more about the country's rich history. Whether it's exploring one of our many castles, taking in a fascinating museum, or exploring abandoned villages, there really is something for everyone. It would of course be easy to take all this history for granted, but the Sunday National has spoken with 4 people who work behind the scenes with Historic Environment Scotland, HES, to preserve and maintain our rich cultural heritage. Luke Maher, stonemason. Maher found his role with HES while he was working on another major historical site, the Antonine Wall, which served as the most northerly frontier of the Roman Empire. Eventually he discovered an opportunity for an apprenticeship at Doon Castle, and has been working as a stonemason with HES for around 6 years. I get to work at historic sites and properties across central Scotland. It's an incredibly satisfying trade to have, quite a unique one, he says. The role itself allows Maher to travel all across Scotland using conservation techniques to repair and maintain structures and properties at sites across the country. HES stonemasons are based across a number of depots including Stirling Castle, Doon Castle and Arbroath Abbey. Working at so many historic sites naturally leads to plenty of highlights, although there's one particular moment that stands out for Maher. I had the chance to take the Stone of Destiny down to London for King Charles's coronation. It was a fantastic experience and wonderful to be a part of history, he says. The artefact is now housed in the recently opened and newly renovated Perth Museum. Stacey Hibbard, blacksmith. Hibbard started her career as a farrier apprentice shoeing horses, but found she was particularly drawn to the blacksmithing element. I loved working with historical ironwork and figuring out how people from centuries ago created such incredible things, she explains. However, Hibbard adds that her 5-year-old self would likely be surprised at her ultimate career path with HES, as she was convinced she was going to be a vet. Now though, her role allows her to go behind the scenes of some of Scotland's most important cultural landmarks. She explained, as a blacksmith, I create and conserve historical ironwork and maintain several historic properties across Scotland. It's quite a diverse trade with lots of different aspects to it. It's really important that we preserve traditional skills so repairs and maintenance are done right, otherwise it could cause more damage. Without conservation blacksmiths, the beautiful ironwork wouldn't be there for people to enjoy in the future. Asked if there was a standout moment in her career thus far, Hibbard said, "The thing I enjoy most about my role is being able to go behind the scenes at these historical sites and really immerse myself in our heritage, an opportunity not many people get. I've even been to the very top of Glasgow Cathedral to inspect the weather vane there." Sophia Mirastrafi, Digital Innovation Officer. Combining history and the digital is one of the most important roles when it comes to preserving cultural heritage. In her role with the Engine Shed, that's exactly what Mirastrafi does, helping to create 3D models of sites and artefacts. She comes from an archaeology background and, in contrast to Hibbard, explains that her 5-year-old self would be obsessed with the work I'm doing today. It's an important role, one that takes aspects from other sectors such as gaming and photography and applying them to the heritage sector. Explaining the specifics of the role, Mirastrafi said, "To map ancient sites, we use a scanner that sends out a laser and bounces off the surface before coming back to the machine at 1 million times per second with incredible accuracy. Alongside photogrammetry and drone footage, this allows for superb photorealistic textures for things like virtual reality." She points to a number of memorable moments which stick out, including working to digitally reconstruct Carlavarock Castle's Islamic glass. I get to crawl around in really cool places across Scotland like Maeshowe, which is a chambered tomb in Orkney, and Skara Brae, a 5,000-year-old village in the same island. I'm down on my hands and knees crawling along corridors to access all the nooks and crannies for digital mapping. Some of the walls were even covered in Viking graffiti. Kirsty Gallagher, tourism apprentice. Along with preserving Scotland's heritage, also important is promoting it to attract the thousands who flock here every year to see what it's all about. That's exactly the type of role Gallagher works in as a modern apprentice in cultural venue operations at Stirling Castle. I used to drive past Stirling Castle all the time and now I get to work here every single day, she says. Gallagher continues, the best thing about my role is meeting hundreds of new people every day from across the globe and keeping Scotland's history alive and strong by sharing stories with them. For some visitors, it's their dream to come to Stirling Castle, and I get to make even more of a positive experience for them. By Adam Robertson. The National, recorded on Wednesday, 8th of May 2024. The Culture Section. Glasgow Jazz Festival set to bring some big names. By Gregor Young, journalist. Glasgow Jazz Festival has unveiled its programme for 2024 with performances from some of the biggest names in jazz set to be hosted in the city this summer. Taking place between June 19 and 23, there are more than 20 captivating events confirmed across Glasgow. This year sees Glasgow Jazz Festival return to well-loved venues including the Macintosh Church in Oranmore in the West End, the city centre's Nice and Sleazy, St Luke's in the East End, and the Glad Cafe in the South Side. The Glasgow Jazz Festival 2024 lineup showcases everything from the legendary to the up-and-coming and promises an electrifying lineup that festival audiences have come to expect of the world-renowned event. At the East End's iconic St Luke's, the spotlight will shine on jazz luminary Bobby Watson and his quartet. Making a triumphant return to Glasgow after a hiatus of more than a decade, the esteemed US saxophonist is best known for his unparalleled improvisational prowess. Spiritual jazz act Mama Terra will recreate songs from the classic album Headhunters by Herbie Hancock in their own sound, while Kitty's Caledonian Songbook pays homage to songs in the Scots tradition, from Robert Burns right up to Paolo Nutini. Winner of 2023 BBC Radio Scotland's Young Jazz Musician of the Year, pianist Ben Shankland, also performs an afternoon show, as well as the Glasgow Improvisers Orchestra, who reunite with Orphy Robinson, one of the most engaging and influential voices in British jazz. Jill Roger, director of Glasgow Jazz Festival, said, "We're delighted that some of the biggest names in jazz will be joining us this summer." With over 20 confirmed events spread across the city, the 38th festival is set to be another iconic edition of this annual event. This year's lineup showcases everything from the legendary to the up-and-coming, promising an electrifying mix that festival audiences have come to expect from our event. We're thrilled to present such an eclectic lineup of jazz luminaries at this year's festival. From international to local talents, there's something for everyone to enjoy. By Gregor Young. The National, recorded on Monday, 6th of May 2024. The Culture Section. The top 5 tastiest spots in Glasgow city centre. By Vary Wilson. I'm not sure whether it's easy or difficult to choose 5 favourite restaurants in a city centre. Easier because of breadth of choice, but more difficult because of the quality and the potential for so many restaurants to be in that top 5. These are my current favourites in Glasgow city centre, which offer completely different types of culinary experiences for different occasions. Celentano's, 28 to 32 Cathedral Square. Celentano's has been hot in the lips of anyone talking about where to eat in Glasgow since it opened in 2021. Situated next to Glasgow Cathedral, its decor is bistro chic with a rustic feel and a distinctly laid-back vibe. The menu is versatile, come for snacks and cocktails and float into food heaven with light bites such as the lasagna fritte with porcini and Cora Lynn sheep's cheese, or do it Italian style antipasti, primi, secondi and dessert. I've yet to make it through all 4 courses, but would heartily recommend the pappardelle with Dexter beef and Bonington Lynn, a perfect combination of al dente pasta with a melt-in-the-mouth ragu and a generous scattering of grated hard goat's cheese. Cafe Gandolfi, 64 Albion Street. My 92-year-old father-in-law's favourite restaurant. He's been going since it opened in 1979. Gandolfi spans generations, with so many people having a fond foodie tale to tell. Beneath the stained glass windows adorned with the masterpiece A Flock of Fishes by John Clark, you'll find people from all walks of life shooting the breeze and enjoying great food. There's always a happy cloud of good conversation floating above the extraordinary hand-sculpted tables and chairs. It feels special to walk into a place which is unchanged by both time and trends in its aesthetic and ethos. The menu focuses on Scotland's culinary heritage, featuring high-quality, locally sourced ingredients. Breakfast has always been a highlight, but it's also known for its exceptional seafood. The Cullen skink is a menu signature. a treasure in Glasgow's food story and one of the city's enduring culinary and cultural institutions. Pisano, 94 Miller Street. It was love at first visit almost 10 years ago, thanks to the level of authenticity with every aspect of the Pisano experience. Everything is sourced from Italy, from the San Marzano tomatoes to the wood-fired ovens from Napoli, which cook the pizzas in just over a minute at 500 degrees Celsius. The fundamental secret to creating a good pizza is in the dough, of course. Pisano leaves its dough to rise in the fridge for 2 days, breaking down the gluten and starch, which results in a soft, light, chewy pizza. Add the San Marzano sugo, the fior di latte mozzarella, fresh basil and extra virgin olive oil, and you have a pizza of dreams for less than £10. The simplicity of Pisano in terms of its menu, industrial, stripped-back decor and authenticity is why it stood the test of time and set the benchmark for the Neapolitan pizza revolution. Sapporo Teppanyaki, 2-6 Ingram Street. At Sapporo Teppanyaki, you'll find jokes, japes and a side portion of harmless jiggery-pokery work alongside terrific Japanese food. It is all about fun and bold theatrics, so expect to find yourself sitting at a large chef's table, flames bursting in front of you while your chef showcases some nifty knife skills while rustling up your noodles. It's feel-good, upbeat and entertaining without being too gimmicky. It's an ideal pre-gig venue, and also for me the perfect place to take our 4 teenagers for great food, guaranteed non-screen time, and a whole lot of laughter. Outlier, 38 London Road. If I ever needed an excuse to down tools, put my sad little cafetiere back in the cupboard and head to the city for otherworldly coffee and brunch with my son, Outlier is it. Named as one of the 3 best places to get brunch in Scotland by the Times, Outlier is a bustling coffee and bakery spot in a rustic communal space with a cosy warm atmosphere just off the Trongate. There are delicious sweet and savoury pastries. Try the rhubarb galette. Toasties with a twist such as the beef shin, smoked cheddar and fennel jam. Breads, bagels, soups and an extraordinarily good coffee courtesy of the Good Coffee Cartel. By Vary Wilson. The National, recorded on Monday, 6th of May 2024. The Culture Section. Travel, an alternative Paris theme park holiday at Parc Asterix. By Robin McKelvey, travel writer. Welcome to our park, beamed the hotel receptionist at our sprawling French theme park. We like it when people from Scotland choose to come here and they always have a great time. This is not the Parisian theme park most people think of though. We're not at Disneyland Paris, but its homegrown sibling Parc Asterix. Having thoroughly enjoyed immersing ourselves in the world of Walt Disney on our last family trip to France, I was determined, despite my 2 daughters' protestations, to try something different, and so we arrived at Parc Asterix, the other sprawling theme park in the outskirts of Paris, to see if a break at this alternative works out too. Asterix is no stranger to me, his wondrous band of Gauls imprinted in my childhood memory as they battled the Romans and each other in cartoon form on the page and on screen. I was surprised to find both 16-year-old Tara and 13-year-old Emma were well versed in their antics. Some things in Scottish French classes must never change. At Parc Asterix, www.parcasterix.fr, we stayed at La Cité Suspendue. As it sounds, you're above the ground in an elevated complex, hanging in a mixed wood forest alive with greenery. It was a joy skipping along the walkways looking out for wee birds and even hulking herons, which we also saw from our balcony. Hats off to Parc Asterix for a 3-star option that is a joy to stay at and feels a million miles from a theme park. La Cité Suspendue couldn't be much closer to Parc Asterix, which celebrates its 35th birthday this year. We meandered through the forest and in 10 minutes were through a reassuring security checkpoint and into the theme park. Asterix images were, of course, liberally sprinkled throughout the park, but I was impressed with the more global theming too. Well, you don't need to be a huge Asterix fan to have fun. I'd recommend showing the kids a few cartoons beforehand. Handily, the 97-acre park is also split into areas for younger kids enjoying imaginative play, then other rides geared towards families and on to real adrenaline thrills. We focused our first day trying out the family-friendly rides, with plenty of watery fun on a warm spring day. These delivered. On top of bumps, drops and thrills, we were liberally soaked in each one. The thrill rides did not disappoint my more adventurous older teen Tara. She tackled the all-conquering at Gaudurix, a 7-loop roller coaster in Tautatis, France's fastest attraction, reaching speeds up to 110 km per hour. We had issues initially with our fast-track passes, but when they were working, they were a great way to skip the queues that form later on. Handily, when you stay on site at one of the 3 hotels, you can sneak into the park a bit earlier to avoid any queues. We found the food much better than you would get at any theme park in the UK. My kids loved that. Being a French park, they were able to grab a delicious crepe on site. Daddy's favourite option was the restaurant Du Lac, with ice-cold Kronenberg on draft and locally sourced meats. The wild boar came as a peppery sausage which was backed up by a tasty kebab and chop. Absolutely delicious. The buffet dinners at La Cité Suspendu were decent too. Parc Asterix is not a place to stand in its hard-won laurels. This year saw the opening of the 40-high Tower of Numerobus, which vaults up above the tree line and then rotates around to open up breathtaking views. You get a real bird's-eye view of the park up here, then it drops you back down to earth. We loved the revamped Revenge of the Pirates, Grand Splash 2, a whoop-inducing water ride. Speaking to the Parc Asterix management, there is talk of new hotels in the pipeline too, in a park that is trying to do all it can to keep up with Disneyland Paris. Never an easy task given how well Disney do things. So the big question is how Asterix's magic world turned out for the kids. My 16-year-old Tara said, I really enjoyed the bigger rides, which were faster than I expected. The Asterix stuff was cool, as was the treehouse we stayed in. I'd recommend it. Then 13-year-old Emma chipped in. I liked that it was in a forest so we could hear the birds and it wasn't just all roller coasters. So there we have it. Parc Asterix is well worth checking out. I'd even say if you've already been to Disneyland Paris, I'd consider it next time as the rides are good, and some fast. The forest accommodation we had a joy and the food is superb. It's impressively local too. As we left, we said goodbye to the receptionist who greeted us, and she smiled. I told you Scottish people always enjoy our park. By Robin McKelvey.
The National News on Wednesday the 8th of May. Cybercriminals publish more stolen health board data. An article written by Jane MacLeod. A ransomware group has published a large volume of data stolen during a cyber attack on a Scottish health board. Cybercriminals were able to access a significant amount of data, including patient and staff identifiable information, during the attack on NHS Dumfries and Galloway, which began at the end of February. Data relating to a small number of patients was released in March, and the hackers had threatened that more would follow. The health board said that data accessed by the cybercriminals has now been published onto the dark web. It set up a helpline for anyone concerned about the attack and is working with police and other agencies as investigations continue. NHS Dumfries and Galloway Chief Executive Julie White said, "This is an utterly abhorrent criminal act by cybercriminals who had threatened to release more data. We should not be surprised at this outcome, as this is in line with the way these criminal groups operate." Work is beginning to take place with partner agencies to access the data which has been published. This very much remains a live criminal matter, and we're continuing to work with national agencies including Police Scotland, the National Cyber Security Centre and the Scottish Government. NHS Dumfries and Galloway is conscious that this may cause increased anxiety and concern for patients and staff, with a telephone helpline now available sharing the information hosted at our website. The information has been published onto the dark web, which is not readily accessible to most people. We continue to follow the very clear guidance being provided by national law enforcement agencies. South of Scotland Labour MSP Colin Smythe told BBC Radio Scotland's Good Morning Scotland programme, "There is no doubt it will cause a great deal of anxiety for patients and staff of NHS Dumfries and Galloway. It's important that the NHS tries to do what it did when the initial data was released, and that is contact the individuals affected. But if they can't do that because the data is so substantial, it's very important that the NHS makes that clear at an early stage, and at the very least contacts the most vulnerable people whose data may have been released." The dedicated telephone helpline on 01387 216 777 01387 216 777 is operating Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The Health Board urged everyone to be alert for any attempts to access their work and personal data, or for approaches by anyone claiming to be in possession of either their personal data or their NHS data, whether this approach comes by email, telephone, social media, or some other means. A Police Scotland spokesperson said its inquiries were continuing. A Scottish Government spokesperson said, "It's important to note that the incident remains contained to NHS Dumfries and Galloway, and there have been no further incidents across NHS Scotland as a whole." The Scottish Government is working with the Health Board, Police Scotland and other agencies including the National Crime Agency and the National Cyber Security Centre to assess the level of this breach and the possible implications for individuals concerned. An article written by Jane MacLeod. The National News on Wednesday the 8th of May. A warning as 4 out of 5 food delivery couriers feel unsafe at work. An article written by Lucy Garcia. 8 out of 10 food delivery couriers in Scotland feel unsafe at work but carry on out of financial necessity, a study has found. The study, led by Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, surveyed 207 couriers in cities across Scotland. It found that more than 60% had experienced racial or ethnic abuse and 55% had suffered physical abuse, largely as a result of incidents while on the road. The 2-year study also found that all of the 33 women surveyed said that they had experienced sexual harassment or abuse while at work. Dr. Pedro Mendonça, who led the study, said, "Our findings shed light on the reality that food delivery couriers have to confront on a daily basis. A significant number are migrants who face multiple barriers as well as daily abuse and a lack of opportunities to find alternative employment in safer environments. It's imperative to understand the nuanced reality in this sector so that we can address challenges and ensure equal protection for all workers." The report includes first-hand accounts from couriers, with one quoted as saying, "I'm constantly being threatened by people, not only customers, but on the road. It's like they see a guy with a delivery bag and they constantly give me grief." In a sector where migrants account for a significant portion of employees, the study found that half of those surveyed said food delivery was their primary income source, and that it's hard for many workers to find alternative careers due to issues such as qualification recognition and language barriers. Ros Foyer, General Secretary of the Scottish Trade Union Congress, said, "This report shines a light on the galling abuse suffered by food delivery couriers, which cannot be allowed to go unchecked. To read that all women surveyed had experienced sexual harassment or abuse, with 81% of couriers overall feeling fundamentally unsafe in their work, is inexcusable and requires urgent action from government. These workers need protection. If we're to become a fair work nation by 2025, the exploitative, abusive practice this vital research highlights must be purged." The study Fair Gig Work, a review of employment practices in the Scottish Food Delivery Work 2024, was funded by the Royal Society of Edinburgh and also involved researchers from the University of Strathclyde and Nottingham Trent University. An article written by Lucy Garcia. The National News on Wednesday the 8th of May. Multi-million-pound repair programme for the Harry Potter Viaduct announced. An article written by Alistair Ferguson. A multi-million-pound project to carry out repairs on the world-famous Harry Potter Viaduct has been announced. Network Rail is to begin carrying out a £3.4 million repair project on the world-famous Glenfinnan Viaduct. The 123-year-old viaduct is best known for being featured in the Harry Potter series and is visited by fans of the film franchise from all over the world. The multi-million-pound project is part of Network Rail's ongoing maintenance programme and aims to help future-proof the viaduct. Repairs are expected to take just under 12 months to complete, as engineers will assess the condition and strength of the A-listed structure. Laura Craig, Scheme Project Manager for Network Rail, has reassured people that the beauty of the famous landmark will be preserved, as engineers don't plan on using any scaffolding, so visitors will still be able to see the viaduct in its full beauty. She said, "The main works to the viaduct will be concrete repairs. We'll also be doing some repairs to the pier that sits in the River Finnan. Years of planning have gone into this project. The work will not have a massive visual impact on the way the viaduct looks, and that's very deliberate, with it being Grade A listed. We won't be scaffolding the structure at all, but in the coming weeks you'll start to see the rope access technicians on the viaduct as they begin work." Network Rail has confirmed that there will be no disruption to rail services during the work on the structure. Ahead of work commencing, a community drop-in event was held in Glenfinnan, allowing locals the opportunity to ask questions directly to the project team. Ms Craig added, "We want to thank all who came to the drop-in event. We know it's a much-loved viaduct and is, of course, the longest concrete viaduct in Scotland, spanning 1,000 feet. It's a bucket list job for our team to work on, and we'll be sharing as much information and as many updates as we can throughout the project." Network Rail, along with principal contractor Amco Giffen, have set up a compound at the foot of the landmark near Fort William to begin carrying out the work. An article written by Alistair Ferguson. The National, on Wednesday the 8th of May. Opinion. The EU paradox. People love it, but they won't turn out to vote. A column written by Asa Samaki-Roman. The upcoming European elections present us with a puzzling paradox. Picture this: the vast majority of European citizens enthusiastically applaud the benefits of EU membership, yet when it's time to head to the polling stations, there is more silence than action. This intriguing disparity between praising the EU and participating in the democratic process sheds light on a genuine dilemma for the Union: how to maintain enthusiasm and ensure that citizens remain engaged in European affairs. The latest Eurobarometer offers a revealing snapshot. A remarkable 71% of EU citizens believe their country has reaped the rewards of EU membership, with 47% holding a favourable view of the EU itself. Even in nations where criticising Brussels was once a national pastime, such as Hungary and Poland, anti-EU sentiment appears to have waned. 46% of Hungarians and 51% of Poles now proudly support EU membership. Yet, juxtaposed against these sentiments are polling results indicating a disheartening trend. Only 45% of voters and a mere 24% of the 18 to 34 age group currently express a likelihood of voting in the EU elections. It seems that when it comes to naming specific actions taken by the EU in recent years, many find themselves scratching their heads when asked to pinpoint specific policy measures. Only 1 out of 5 French citizens can pass that test, according to the recent polls. And this with just over a month to go until the vote on June the 9th. In our middle school civic education classes, we may delve into the roles of the European Parliament, the European Council and the European Commission. But let's be honest, those lessons tend to fade into the background over time. However, despite our forgetfulness, the EU has woven itself into the very fabric of our lives through initiatives like freedom of movement and Erasmus. These programmes have not only shaped identities, but also flung open doors of opportunity across the continent. The EU's impact on our daily lives is undeniable, and in the tumultuous years of the pandemic, it's proven that it can boldly step up to the plate when the need arises. In a historic milestone for the EU, 2020 saw European states collectively borrow a staggering €750 billion to fuel post-COVID recovery efforts, despite initial hesitations from Germany and the Nordic countries. This impressive display of economic solidarity proved crucial in preventing the crisis from exploding economic gaps among member states, thereby safeguarding the very essence of the Union. In 2022, after a marathon of negotiations, the directive on minimum wage finally got the green light. This landmark decision promises to uplift the lowest wages in several countries, with a 2-year adjustment period about to kick into gear. However, amidst this potential for transformative change, there's a cloud on the horizon, the spreading shadow of misinformation and a growing sense of detachment from EU institutions. Indeed, the lack of awareness about EU realities creates fertile ground for misinformation and misrepresentation. Voters' disconnect manifests in various ways, from voter apathy to the concerning surge of far-right parties among disenfranchised populations. Ironically, those harbouring the strongest disdain for the EU are those set to gain significant influence in the upcoming June elections. According to a survey involving a whopping 26,000 Europeans across 18 member states, it seems like the pro-EU parties are gearing up to dominate the next European Parliament, representing an estimated 63% of the seats. That would be a total of 453 seats out of 720. But when you focus on individual countries, things take a more intriguing turn. The nationalist right is gaining momentum. From France's Rassemblement National to Belgium's Vlaams Belang, and even to the Netherlands with Geert Wilders' Party for Freedom, these anti-European, xenophobic, regressive parties are running extremely successful campaigns. So for me, it's only natural to wonder, how can we navigate this situation? How can we ensure that the EU remains relevant in the eyes of its citizens? I think in the end that is why I enjoy doing the Our Friends in Europe podcast so much. It's a platform where I can delve into pressing questions concerning European citizens, but it's impossible not to see the resonance with Scotland and the UK more generally. By exploring common challenges and sharing insights from diverse perspectives, I hope to contribute to a deeper understanding of what's happening in the EU and the implications for Scotland and the UK. Over the past few months, I've had the pleasure of exploring a variety of topics, from agriculture and housing to workers' rights, Erasmus and EU reform. My goal has been to present these complex issues in relatable, concrete and knowledgeable ways to bridge the gap between EU policies and people's everyday lives. With Saoirse Edwards from Housing Europe, we spoke of countries which maintained high levels of social housing, helping citizens find affordable, good quality housing, thanks to a political consensus around affordable housing. With Dr. Louisa Prowse from the Bosch Foundation, we explored how agriculture could transition to a more sustainable model and help us meet our climate targets. And in the next episode, going live later this week, I spoke to Spanish Socialist MEP Dominic Ruiz de Vesa about his views that we should have a federal Europe and his thoughts on Brexit and Scotland rejoining the EU. I can't wait to tackle even more topics in the future, from immigration and energy to culture and defence. Each new subject offers a fresh opportunity to inform, educate and engage with people reading this newspaper, so please feel free to make suggestions and requests. Everyone I've had the pleasure of speaking with shares a common vision: the urgent call for rebuilding, driven by the pressing need for infrastructure improvement and democratic reform. They all advocate for a shift away from the race to the bottom mentality, recognising that true competitiveness lies in fostering thriving societies and robust economies, and putting citizens at the heart of decisions. This is a version of taking back control I can adhere to. The sense of disenchantment among citizens isn't unique to the EU. It's a global phenomenon, and my goodness, we feel it so much in the UK. I believe addressing the root causes of this disengagement demands an approach that tackles the challenges we have in common. They include implementing policies to fight against inequality, support human rights, protect basic living standards, and strengthen democratic governance both at the EU and national levels. Even if Scotland is on a different course, out of the EU for the foreseeable future, the insights gleaned from these conversations are still incredibly relevant. If you, too, share this much-needed ambition for a fair, prosperous and cohesive society, then you should absolutely listen to these European perspectives. They can offer valuable lessons that can inform Scotland's journey towards a brighter future. A column written by Asa Samaki-Roman. The National News on Wednesday the 8th of May. Police dog sniffs out illegal vapes being sold in Scottish shops. An article written by Stuart McConnell. 3 agencies in Ayrshire joined forces to help tackle the growing problem of vapes, with 3 stores targeted in a blitz. In a major united approach, Police Scotland Ayrshire teamed up with North Ayrshire Trading Standards and a Consumer Protection Dog Unit last month to tackle illegal nicotine vapour product retailers. Boo is a Labrador German Wirehead Pointer Cross specifically trained to sniff out nicotine products. 5 vape stockists across North Ayrshire were visited, with 2 Irvine stores and a Saltcoats premises found to be selling illicit nicotine products. Some of these items were well concealed, but were found in seconds by Boo and his professional dog handler. Counterfeit vapes usually contain dangerously high levels of nicotine and often do not meet UK standards, failing in child-resistant packaging, leakage protection and other major health and safety flaws. Some of the disposable vape products seized contained a nicotine equivalent of over 800 cigarettes, and that's over 16 times the UK legal limit. An article written by Stuart McConnell. The National News on Wednesday the 8th of May. Police Federation Chief issued a warning on officer numbers. An article written by Gregor Young. The number of police officers in Scotland has dropped again to its lowest level in more than 15 years, with almost 260 officers having left the force in the last year alone. Police Scotland had 16,356 full-time equivalent officers at the end of March this year, the lowest since the end of September 2008, according to figures published by the Scottish Government. The latest statistics showed the number of full-time equivalent officers had fallen by 259 from the same time the previous year, the equivalent of at least 1 officer leaving the force every working day for the past 12 months. Earlier this year, David Kennedy, the General Secretary of the Scottish Police Federation, warned that any further drops in officer numbers could see an increase in organised crime activity. The bottom line is that the intelligence on organised crime groups and terrorism comes from the communities, he told 1919 magazine. If you don't have community police officers out there patrolling and picking up on that intelligence, then they're missing out on so much. Concerns have also been raised over the practicalities of police officers investigating incidents recorded under the newly introduced Hate, Crime and Public Order Scotland Act. It emerged earlier this year that 7,152 complaints were made online in the week of its introduction on April the 1st, although only 240 were escalated and recorded as hate crimes. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, "Officer recruitment was delayed in 2023 to ensure policing was delivered on budget during 2023-2024. We restarted officer recruitment in March." Justice Secretary Angela Constance said, "Despite deeply challenging financial circumstances, our budget for 2024-2025 includes record police funding of £1.55 billion, an increase of £92.7 million. This will enable Police Scotland to bring officer numbers up to around 16,500 to 16,600, starting with the recruitment of almost 200 new officers in March, with further recruitment this year. Scotland continues to have more police officers per head of population than England and Wales, and recorded crime is at one of the lowest levels seen since 1974. An article written by Gregor Young. The National News on Wednesday the 8th of May. Tartan Parade will mark the capital's 900th anniversary. An article written by Alistair Ferguson. A tartan parade to mark the historic anniversary of Edinburgh and to celebrate Scottish heritage has been announced. Tartan Parade Scotland has announced its inaugural Edinburgh Tartan Parade, which is set to take place next year on May the 10th, to mark the celebration of the City of Edinburgh's 900th anniversary. The event aims to bring together tartans, pipe bands, dancers, musicians, organisations and individuals from across both Scotland and the world to celebrate the country's rich heritage and culture. The proposed route for the parade will start at the iconic Royal Mile and then weave its way to Waverley Bridge, where it will finish at Mount Precinct. Attendees can expect a display of clan tartans, as well as lively performances of pipe bands and Highland dancers, organisations and individuals all coming together to honour Scotland's legacy. The inspiration for the Tartan Parade comes from the successful New York City Tartan Day Parade and the ongoing collaboration between the event organisers and Kyle Dawson, the president of the New York City Tartan Day Parade, who is thrilled about the event. He said, "The New York City Tartan Day Parade has been a beacon of Scottish pride and heritage for nearly 30 years. We're thrilled to see this tradition extend to Scotland, fostering deeper connections and celebrating the rich Scottish culture." To celebrate the announcement of the Tartan Parade, speeches will take place on Saturday, May the 11th, at the Mount Precinct next to the National Galleries. This event will officially open the registration process for the upcoming parade. Attendees can expect speeches from Councillor Leslie Cameron and Scotland's National Piper Louise Marshall, as well as performances from Ms Marshall and local samba band Pulse of the Place. Ms Cameron, Deputy Lord Provost of the City of Edinburgh, said, "Edinburgh is proud to host the first Tartan Parade Scotland, aligning with our city's 900th anniversary. This event not only celebrates our history, but also our commitment to cultural diversity and community engagement." An article written by Alistair Ferguson.
That concludes this week's edition of the National Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Review and tell your friends about our service.